I recently went to Dollar Tree and managed to get my hands on a few of their decals. So I thought today we would take said decals and create a few one-of-a-kind DIY.
For this first decal DIY, we're going to be creating a measuring stick for kids that you can hang on your wall. To start with, you're going to want to get a board that is at least 6.5 feet tall and at least 6 to 10 inches wide. The board I'm using is one that hubby had cut down on one of his tree jobs, and he had planed it down smooth, but there was still a few rough edges, so I went in with some sandpaper and just smoothed everything out and made sure that there were no sharp corners. Next, you're going to want to grab yourself a nice thick chippy brush and some white chalk paint that's been diluted with water, and give that entire board, the front, sides, top, and bottom, a nice whitewash. Now this is the decal pack that we'll be using from Dollar Tree, but we won't be using these big ones. We're going to be using just these little side pieces. Later on, I'll show you what we do with the larger decals, but these are the ones we're going for, the little London, the tree, because in this video, we're going to be using the entire decal pack.
This is a public message because I know some of you are gonna come for me. Where I live, we say decal. I know that in other areas, especially in the States, you guys say decal. I had to think about that. Where I live, we say decal. So you say decal, I say no, other way around.
So tell me, which do you say, decal or decal? Using a ruler, you're going to want to mark off every inch, every half inch, and then every foot. Starting from the bottom though, you're going to hang this 6 inches above the floor. So for your first foot, you'll want to start from the half foot mark because you're going to want the bottom 6 inches to be from the floor to the start of the measuring stick, and that way your measurements will be accurate. Once I had all the measurements in place, I just went in with those decals and arranged them as far as their theme went. When arranging the stickers, make sure you mix up the sizes and the angles of the decals to just give it a little extra interest. And now to get these decals to stick to our wood board, we're just going to go in with a little bit of matte Mod Podge. Peel each individual sticker away from its backing and then just put a little bit of Mod Podge on that sticky back. I found because the wood was a bit rough, it needed that little extra adhesion. But if you find that your board is smooth enough and you can just stick the stickers on, later on I'll show you another DIY where we do just that. Lightly press the decals down with your fingertips, and then I went in with my Cricut roller and swiping in every direction got those decals laid down nice, smooth, and flat. Lastly, apply a nice thin coat of Mod Podge onto each of the decals and around so that it adheres nicely to the wood and just keeps everything in place. To make those markings a bit darker, I went in with just a permanent Sharpie marker and retraced all of my pencil marks. And then I grabbed a Martha Stewart stencil letters and numbers that I happen to have on hand, but really any stencil will work, even ones from Dollar Tree will work perfectly fine. And I just used these to mark off 1 to 6 for each of the feet. Then go in again with that black Sharpie marker, trace out your pencil marking, and then fill that in. You don't have to fill this in perfectly if you don't want to. I didn't, and it kind of gave it a little worn look that I really liked. So to add to that sort of rustic worn look, I actually went in with a bit of sandpaper and just lightly sanded over a few of the decals and then put on just a smidgen more of the Mod Podge to seal everything in. And there you have it, an inexpensive measuring stick that your children or grandchildren will love measuring themselves up against and treasure for years to come. For this next inexpensive yet beautiful home decor piece, you're just going to need some basic printer photo paper. For this DIY, we're just going to use the Succulent Decals from Dollar Tree and just peel the sticker away from its backing and stick this on a sheet of just plain printer paper. I arranged it so the ones that looked like they were cut in half was butted up against the edge of the paper, and the ones with the littler succulents were arranged in an attractive way. Next, I popped each of these images into my printer on photocopy, and I made a copy of each of these images onto the sheets of photo paper, once in black and white and then once again in color. But I'm just doing that to show you what both looks look like. You only have to print it out in whichever form you prefer. Next, using the glass from the frame as the measurement, I marked off where I needed to cut it down and then sliced the photo paper so that it would fit perfectly into the frame. I replaced the backing onto each of the frame. Now I'm using a box frame so that it has a wide ledge to it. I found these at Dollarama, but really any frame would work, although I do recommend one that sort of has a boxier look. I just think it adds to the overall appearance. The photocopy paper just gives it such a professional look, and I'm curious, do you prefer the black and white or the colored option? Let me know in the comments below. This next DIY reminds me of like grandmother's cottage, and I love it. So I had found this old bamboo tray at the thrift store a long time ago, painted it white with chalk paint, and then just put it aside. And then I saw these peony decals that Dollar Tree has out this year. They are definitely different than last year's decals, but worth looking at. Really pretty. So I just removed the decal from its backing and stuck it onto the front of the tray, smoothing everything down with my hands so that it stuck really nice and flat. Now I wanted to make it look like the decal had been painted, hand painted onto this tray. So using an X-Acto knife, I slit the paper where there was a space between the two bamboo slats, and then to give it a nice smooth edge and just sort of work the paper into the bamboo, I used a nail file and just scraped that in one direction over the paper so that it gave it a nice clean edge. Again, I really wanted to make this look like it had been hand painted on, so I went in with a little bit of that white chalk paint, and with a small paintbrush and a light hand, I just applied a little bit of the paint strokes onto the decal, making it just look a little bit more like it was tied into the original bamboo tray. To seal the decal onto the bamboo tray, I went in with just a bit of matte Mod Podge and gave the whole thing a really nice thin coat over top. To distress it a little further, I just went in with that nail file again and removed some of the white chalk paint from the bamboo, and that was it. It was done. Tell me, what do you think? Okay, this is another DIY that you could use in a kid's room, a kid's bathroom, or honestly, it's so kind of retro charming. You could also use it in a pretty funky kitchen, powder room, kid's bathroom, or even your mudroom. Now you're going to need 3 sheets of craft paper. I went with blue, green, and yellow, and 3 of those box frames, the same kind we used with our first DIYs. Just like before, remove the backing, the piece of paper that it comes with, and the glass you can just leave inside, because you can use the paper inlay to measure out the amount of craft paper that you're going to need, and then just cut that down with your paper slicer. Now this is where we're going to use those larger decals that I showed you in the first DIY. Now this is so super simple. Just remove the decal from the backing and making sure that you're not matching up the color of the decal with the color of the paper. So like yellow on blue, green on yellow. Place the decals, 1 each on the center of each of the pages. Replace the page into your frame, put on the backing, et voila! You have yourself simple, easy, and inexpensive wall decor. This DIY is another one that is perfect for those kids or grandkids. Start off with, you're going to need a board. I had this one in my scrap pile. It was about 20 inches long by about 5.5 inches wide. And to smooth everything out, make sure that the surfaces were sliver free and the edges were nice and smooth, I just went in with some sandpaper and gave the whole thing a really nice sanding. There were some holes in this wood, so I just went in with a little bit of white wood filler to fill in those holes. I went with white wood filler because later on we're going to be applying a little bit of white chalk paint, and I just wanted this all to blend in quite nicely. Using a wide chippy brush and a little bit of that white chalk paint, I just went in and applied the paint in a really distressed look. I could totally see this piece in like a kid's room at a cabin, and that's sort of the feel I'm going for. After that paint had dried, I grabbed these decals from Dollar Tree. They are A to Z or Z. Oh, yes, we also say Z, not Z. Little Dollar Tree dollar store tip, always double check your merchandise. I did not do that, and as you can see, very sad. I have a letter missing, but no big deal because I don't really need all these decals, so I'm just going to be donating the rest of them. So the letters I will be using are A to G, and I'm just going to cut those out individually right around the stickers so that I can line them up onto the board and fit them exactly where I want them before I actually adhere them to the board. And this time I just removed the decal from the backing and stuck it right onto the board. And to really make sure that it was stuck to that board, I just grabbed my Cricut roller and rolled on top of it in every direction. And once again, to kind of get those decals adhered to our board, we're just going to go in with some matte Mod Podge. I found this pack of 10 different colored porcelain knobs on Amazon for under $15, and we're going to arrange these on the board. To do this, we're going to have to mark off where we want it to line up horizontally, and then we're going to measure the center part of each of the decals, mark that off in the center point with our horizontal line, and that will give us the exact spot that we're going to need to drill our hole into the board so that we can then attach each of the porcelain knobs. I decided to place the knobs in the color pattern that you would find in a rainbow. This just offers so many learning opportunities for little ones. You've got your letters, you've got your colors, and you have the order of the rainbow. Finish it all off with a little bit of picture hanging hardware on the back. I would recommend doing one on each end and then using a level, making sure that it's nice and straight so that when you hang it on the wall, it's perfectly balanced.
If you enjoyed those, make sure you subscribe. Give me a thumbs up. If you hit the notification bell, it'll let you know the next time I upload. Oh, and you might enjoy these.